before we can march on to what lies in front of us and around the next corner that's going to be new. To unlearn the old means, I think, to relearn from your past so that this time you're interpreting it correctly and accurately. And to do that, sometimes we have to unlearn what it is we thought we had learned, because what we thought we had learned was not accurate. Unlearn from your past. A couple of churches ago, I was teaching a disciple Bible study, and there was a particular woman in that class that wrote a letter to me. I've not read this letter. I would never read this letter to the church where she attended, and I won't mention a name. She wrote this: "When I was a child, I grew up in a broken home. My mother and father remained married, but they were each other's worst enemy. They hated each other. And when I wasn't being sexually abused by my father, I was being reminded by my mother that I was the only reason they remained together in the same house. So I grew up believing that a father has the right to control my body and a mother has the right to control my mind and my feelings. But worst of all, I grew up believing that such an arrangement was ordained by God, and therefore not to be questioned by a young girl such as myself. By the time I was old enough to leave home, God had become anything to me but a friend. In fact, he was the enemy. Today, I've discovered that God never was the enemy. What I had learned from my parents was wrong. They were wrong. They were wrong for each other. Most of all, they were wrong for me," she writes. "I can't change that part of my history, but that part of my history has appropriately now been laid to rest. Today, I see Jesus. I see Jesus as God. I see God shining through the things Jesus did and the stories that he told. But most of all, I see God who smiles at me. And that's why I'm smiling back at him." Isn't that a great letter? I wish you could have known this lady. I think she's still alive. That's a story about unlearning from your past, relearning from the past lessons that up till now you've misunderstood. Simply going from change to change to change to change can end up being nothing more than a thirst that can never be quenched. It's the past and getting the truth from out of the past that sets the appropriate stage for the future. Think for a moment how everything Saul was doing appeared to him as being right. All of those Christians that he was persecuting, all of that appeared to him as being right. Why? Because he was observing the laws. But all that he was doing appeared in the eyes of Jesus as being wrong. "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" Jesus said. Can you imagine how that would stop you instantly in your tracks if Jesus ever says that to you? Oh my, why are you persecuting me? Jesus said to him. Jesus wasn't asking Saul why he was persecuting other people, and he was, but instead Jesus said, "Why are you persecuting me?" If we don't unlearn certain episodes from what's behind us, how can we possibly see truth as being truth in what's ahead of us? Dr. Albert Outler was the professor of theology at Perkins School of Theology in Southern Methodist University. It was my good fortune to be a student there before he retired. Near the end of his life, he made this startling observation. He said, "I wish I could repeal the last 40 years of my sermons." Why? Because they all basically said the same thing, namely, that you've got to love. But now, after I've lived my life so fully and so completely, I've come to see that the real gospel says that you get to love. Saul thought he was in the right, but Jesus knew he was very much in the wrong. Saul could have never become Paul without unlearning the things about God and about himself and about life itself. And sometimes that might be our story too. Amen.
Thank you for joining us on our pre-recorded Sunday morning service. If you would like a copy, you can contact the office at 660-359-6762 or email us at wesleyum@sbcglobal.net. Feel free to visit us in person or online at wesleyunitedmethodist.us, where you will always find open hearts, open minds, and open doors. May the blessings of Jesus Christ be upon you in every aspect of your life.